I'm getting a school shooting at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland.
I think we got shots fired. Possible shots fired. 1,200 buildings.
There's an active shooter situation in South Florida.
We begin tonight in South Florida. There has been a shooting.
17 people have been killed, students and adults. This is the 18th school shooting already this year.
It's the worst day in Parkland.
On February 14, 2018, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School became the site of the 18th school shooting in the U.S. this year. Students, parents, and supporters all across the nation became activists in the wake of the shooting, and the March for Our Lives movement was born.
A lot of the young people participating, not even old enough to vote, but that isn't stopping them. In fact, you get the sense they're just getting started.
This, essentially what you see behind me, this is what student activism, student activists really trying to get the nation's attention looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
I will not let another school shooting happen without feeling like I did my very best into stopping gun violence.
To honor the girls, the women of color who were murdered at disproportionate rates in this nation. I urge each of you to help me write the narrative for this world and understand so that these girls and women are never forgotten. Thank you.
The rise of activism among children and young adults is nothing new to this country. In the 1950s and 60s, many children and young adults were at the forefront of the civil rights movement that sought to end segregation and discrimination of Black Americans in society. The Freedom Riders who went to jail to desegregate buses and the foot soldiers who marched for their voting rights say they did what their parents could not for fear of angering white employers. Kirk D. Carrington Sr. was a child foot soldier in Selma, Alabama. He recalls his experience marching for the right to vote.
But it was random marches, and they picked the days that they were going to march, and we would just, wait to hear when the day was going to come, when we were going to go and march. The only good thing about it, we got out of school.
Cheyenne Webb Christberg of Selma, Alabama, says meeting Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as a child pulled her towards the movement for equality and freedom.
And as he was talking to us, he asked us a question. He said, "What do you little girls want?" And my best friend and I looked at each other, not knowing how to respond to that question. He said, "Now, when I ask you little girls, what do you want? I want you to say freedom." And we said, "Freedom." He said, "Now say it louder." He said, "What do you little girls want?" And we said, "Freedom," in our own childish voices.
Today, young people again are at the front lines. The March for Our Lives movement, which protests gun violence and seeks gun reform at the federal level, mirrors times of past when children were at the forefront of what they believed in. Adam Brooks, a faculty member at the University of Alabama, says the parallels between the past and present are all about changing the future.
When you look at the distinctions between the mainstream U.S. civil rights movement of the 1960s and what's happening in contemporary space, I think there's lots of interesting parallels. The first of which was that these movements were done by young people. They were done by people who were 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. You're seeing that happen in the issues of student activism that's happening around Parkland. You're seeing it happening with the Black Lives Matter movement and issues that are happening all across campuses. There's also some interesting things in that power is always about pushing back against the status quo, and I think they're always going to feel interesting parallels to them. I think what's most comparable in terms of what happened in the 60s and what's happening today is that you're noticing that the status quo is about the fear of other.
Foot soldiers of the civil rights movement know plenty about fear, but still encourage today's children and young adults to stand up for what they believe in and never forget to do their part.
I felt inspired to want to do more because I understood more.
For Immersion Reporting, this is Annemarie Payson.